I'm very excited to introduce our next presenter, mainly because this was one of the original concepts of this forum, and Deloitte was nice enough to really work hard on bringing this one home. So I really appreciate their efforts. I really appreciate the resource they brought in for this. The concept of this entire forum was, how do you as government personnel leverage this thing called mobile technology to be able to do your jobs better, faster, easier, more effectively, right? Not only Deloitte, but the speaker has a lot of experience in examining that, and he's going to cover that today. It's a mobile world, and people now expect to be able to access services and information anytime and anywhere. You all know that, right? Therefore, pressure is mounting on government organizations to be more proactive in providing mobile apps both internally and externally. But it's not as difficult as one might think. This session looks at mobile app innovations and where they provide the most value. Shehyar Khan applies the same formula that made UberMind successful, helping position Deloitte Digital as a leading service provider focused on web, mobile, social, and emerging technologies. During his 15-year career in consulting, Shehryar has worked with companies ranging from telecom to government, but UberMind has been the true passion of his professional life. He grew professionally as the company grew, progressing from architect and senior architect to ultimately president and CEO. We're very, very honored and excited to hear from Shehyar Khan. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thanks, Russ. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to present to you today. I thought over the next 40 or so minutes, what we'd do is sort of get you up to speed on sort of what we're seeing in the market, this thing called the mobile revolution, talk a little bit about how mobile is different, and then sort of really sort of do a deep dive in some of the innovation that we're seeing around mobile in a few specific commercial industries. I think some of the concepts we're going to talk about are directly relevant to work that can be done in the public sector, but the industries that we're going to do a deep dive on are healthcare. We're going to do a deep dive on travel, transportation, retail, and finally, media consumption. Okay, so let me take you back in time 20 or so years. I'm dating myself here with this slide. You know, remember the days of the mainframe, you know, these big, large, sort of centralized machines. In the early 90s, mid 90s, or even late 80s, early 90s, started seeing a shift towards client server. Client server towards the late 90s, we had the dot-com boom, and you saw the sort of transition, if you will, from client server to web. And you know, with the launch of the iPhone, we're seeing another, what we consider to be another shift, paradigm shift in computing. But this one's different. Why is this particular one different? Well, one, the pace at which this is happening is just staggering. I think everybody's been taken aback by like how quickly the environment is changing. I think a lot of this trend is being driven by what we call digital natives of the Facebook generation. So there's a certain expectation that these individuals have around how they're going to interact with their device, how they get information, how seamless that information is, how continuous that is. Expectation is high. And finally, the rate at which the innovation, the pace of innovation that we're seeing with respect to this technology trend is actually changing the very definition of the word mobile. This shouldn't come as a surprise. 820 million phones scheduled to be sold in 2013, 148 million iPads, 1 billion smartphones in use before too long. I'll use sort of personal story, 2 generations within my family. I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. Both have grown up without knowing how to use a keyboard and mouse, yet they're completely at home on an iPad or a mobile device. But it's not just the next generation. My mother, who's 65 years old, has also never used a keyboard or mouse. Yet, she immediately took to using an iPhone and is very comfortable on it. So just in terms of sort of the change and the adoption that mobile technology is driving is staggering. Mobile is impacting, there is no industry or sector out there that is not being touched by mobile right now. There's industries where mobile is maybe not as prevalent, but those industries are thinking about mobile-only type use cases, which are scenarios which can be implemented today only because of mobile-specific technology. So this notion of having a very sophisticated computing device in your pocket all the time, which knows who you are, which knows what time it is, and which knows where you are. There are a certain class of scenarios or use cases that can be developed off that information because of the very technology. So we talked a little bit about this sort of paradigm shift in computing and how it's different. I think Apple, with the launch of the iPhone, has certainly set a very high bar with respect to user experience. I think if you look at some of the more successful mobile applications out there today, the best mobile apps are truly the result of working at the intersection of art and science. Right? The science being the deep integration back into your back-end systems, the art there being sort of bringing unique creative concepts to life, but doing them in a way where the user experience is just it's a delight to use. Additionally, what you see is companies like Uber, see companies like Square, essentially mobile-only businesses. Okay, so Square does payment processing, Uber is for a sort of transportation, sort of logistics sort of play. But these businesses are skyrocketing right now, and these are mobile-only businesses. Businesses made possible because of the new generation of smartphone devices. Okay. Mobile is also different because we talked about user expectation. But this notion of 24/7 access to information, okay, when you need it, anytime, anywhere, sort of relevant information. This notion of context, and I'll talk a little bit about context and context being an emerging trend in the mobile space. And then also, as I mentioned, there's a whole generation of users who only know how to engage with technology through these mobile devices. So you have a lot of individuals who won't have laptops, PCs, and they'll grow up using these technologies. Now, the definition of mobile, 2007, Apple launched the iPhone. Since then, you have the iPad, you have Android devices. But the way we look at mobile today is in a slightly different light. We actually feel that the very definition of mobile is changing. Changing at this minute, changing as we speak. If you look at the Tesla S, this is as mobile or connected a device as ever. Right? This is a vehicle which is getting software updates pushed down to it. It's a vehicle that's connecting to the Tesla cloud. If you look at the Nike Fuel Band, anybody here have a Nike Fuel Band? Yeah. If you look at the Nike Fuel Band, this is a sort of a intersection of sort of device gamification designed to encourage you to live a healthier lifestyle. The Pebble watch, this is a watch that connects directly with your smartphone and shows you alerts. Google Glasses, right? So the Nest thermostat, this is a sort of home automation device which learns over time and sort of saves energy in the process. But the way we look at mobile today is through this lens where everything before too long is going to be a connected device. Everything is going to be a connected device. It's going to be about context, who you are, where you are, what you're doing, okay, and what the system knows about you. And it's going to be about new and interesting interaction models. So we have touch on a mobile device. We have voice. With Google Glasses, we're going to have a vision-powered interaction model. So with that, let me talk a little bit about some of the trends that we're seeing across different industries. Yeah. This particular scenario is around how mobile technology can be used for disease management. Right? So this notion of going to a physician and being prescribed medication, but also being prescribed an app, right? Because treatment is as much about the medication as it is about changing your behaviors, right? An app which you can download off the App Store, or possibly even an iPad given to you with this application that helps you manage your disease. Jim is a diabetic, okay? He's got a glucose meter, which he's bought off the shelf. The glucose meter integrates directly with his iPad or iPhone, okay? Submits information to it. The app gives him reminders, right? Ensures that he's taking his medication on time, so there's an adherence dimension to this particular use of mobile. At any given time, he can see charts, trends of his sort of diabetic condition, if you will. And then it has sort of peripheral components around it to sort of manage nutrition, manage your diet. But this app, you know, Jim today has an app or a mobile device that is helping him manage his specific disease, his specific condition. Diabetes, heart disease, you can see how this sort of concept would be applicable to all sorts of different conditions out there. Now, while that's more of sort of a constant, ongoing sort of condition that mobile allows you to manage, here's an example of what we refer to as more of an episodic condition. So this is Molly expecting her first child. And you know, I wish this technology existed back when I had my first child. But you know, for parents, for first-time parents, there's this uneasiness associated with what to expect, right? So you're anxious, and here's an application which enables expecting mothers to get a better handle on what to expect, right? This is sort of reminders. So your ultrasound being beamed to your mobile device and then being shared out to your sort of friends and family. It's about education. It's like a Lamaze class, basically, in your mobile device. And then even post-pregnancy, once the child is born, imagine sort of the app and everything that you've collected and being a memento, right? This is sort of your entire experience now, like a diary that you can refer back to. So another sort of different or unique use of mobile devices to manage a specific sort of condition, if you will. Yeah. There's just a plethora of devices which are coming on the market around health and wellness. So Nike Fuel Band, you have the Fitbit, you have the Withings scale, you have glucose meters, you have the Pebble watch. All of these devices essentially have specific sensors in them that extend the use of your smartphone device. So these devices are collecting information about you and then sort of synchronizing back to your device. Today, a lot of this information is being used to help people live a healthier life. Right? So real life story, the Nike Fuel Band, one of these gizmos. Based on your location and based on sort of the movement of your arm, it accumulates what are called Nike fuel points over the course of the day. Okay, and if you get to a certain goal, you get a badge. You get to share the fact with your friends that you've hit your points goal. The Nike Fuel Band, this particular device has actually changed my exercising behavior. Right? Around 11:30 or so at night, I check my Nike Fuel points, and I see that they're behind. I break out into jumping jacks to try to bridge that gap. Right? So these devices are changing behavior, but where it gets really interesting is when you aggregate all of this information. So apps to encourage you to walk more, apps for you to run, and apps that's collecting your sort of your blood pressure, an app that's all of these different devices collectively. What you have is a snapshot of your specific situation, of your specific metrics at any given point in time. So when you think about this information and how this information could be transmitted to your physician, all of a sudden you have a situation where the first part of your appointment is not about the 30 questions you need to answer, right? It's much more about, oh, I get it completely, right? I understand your situation. I've been looking at these trends. All of a sudden, all the physicians out there are much more efficient than they've ever been because of the availability of this information. Now, the other use case that this introduces is there's a lot of time spent actually making your appointment, going to the physician, and oftentimes those appointments are unnecessary. Right, so imagine a scenario where your information is sent to your physician, transmitted automatically, and then you have a video conference or a telemedicine appointment where it doesn't actually require a physical trip to the doctor. Right, so imagine the sort of cost savings associated with the cost and time saving, the efficiency gained because of how this particular technology is being used. So that's healthcare. Now let's shift gears and let me walk you through what we're seeing in the retail space. Okay, so we talked a little bit about expectations, user expectations. All right, the user expectation is I'm going to start an experience on a particular channel, and I just want that experience to seamlessly continue on any other channel. Right, so the example there is I'm on my laptop at work and I'm browsing something. I should be able to just seamlessly pick up that experience and carry it over to my mobile device, my phone, on the bus ride home. And when I get home, I'm sitting on the living room couch. I should be able to bring up my iPad, sort of continue that process, right? And then that extends to sort of physical environments, right? In the retail world, if I have a list of things I want to buy, that list should be synchronized across all of those different devices and also help me when I'm in an actual physical store. So omni-channel, this concept of different channels having a sort of integrated, connected experience is something that a lot of retailers are struggling with right now. And their struggles really stem from sort of silos, right? So you've got your store or retail environment, which has a specific set of systems, and you have your website and your .com, which is another set of systems, and they don't necessarily talk to each other in the ways they should, right? Inventory, right? Inventory on the website should connect with inventory in the actual store. But omni-channel is one of the big trends that we're seeing right now in the retail space. If you think about people in a physical store environment, physical shopping environment, walking around using their mobile devices, using their devices to find particular products in the store, there's information about those individuals, how they're navigating the stores, what they're purchasing, coupled with the social sphere, or what people are talking about in the social sphere, right? That combination of information can be used to drive specific decisions, right? So imagine a store associate, somebody in the physical store using their mobile device, and they suddenly realize it's like, wow, this particular product, everybody's talking about it, right? It's like people are like rushing into the store to purchase this particular product. Them being armed with that information all of a sudden enables them to make decisions like, well, I'm going to swap out this end cap, or I'm going to put up this new sign by the entrance to further promote this product. But again, those sort of use cases, the combination of sort of information, the combination of analytics and mobile, collected from the consumer, being enabled or being used by the associate, is also it's a trend that we're just beginning to see in the retail space. If you go back in time, 2008, 2009, you had retailers releasing apps that were primarily focused on sort of browsing the sort of store, browsing your sort of catalog, browsing hierarchy, adding stuff to your shopping cart, and using it as sort of a fancy list, right? If you fast forward to today, if you walk into an Apple store, right? If you go to a Starbucks, you will be met with a store associate, a team member, with a point of sale device, right, that comes to you to complete the transaction. Apple's actually taken a step further where you can complete the transaction yourself using what's called Easy Pay. But this notion of sort of untethering the person from behind their desk so that they can get out on the floor and engage with the customer, engage with the resident, engage with the individual, that sort of high-touch customer experience engagement is now possible because of mobile devices. I think one of the best examples of sort of the omni-channel experience or an organization that's doing really well with mobile in the retail space is Target. Right? So the Target experience actually starts from the living room couch using your iPad as you browse through the pages of the weekly newsletter. Right? As you browse through the pages of the weekly newsletter, basically you can drag products into a list. That list is automatically synchronized with your mobile device. Your mobile device sort of guides you to the nearby store. that has that particular product in stock. Once in the actual physical store, it'll guide you to the aisle that has that product, and then you could purchase the product right from your mobile device. Right? So again, the point is that integrated experience. When customers, users, they don't get that integrated experience, the expectation is so high that they get frustrated. Right? They'll just sort of disconnect if they don't get that sort of seamless, integrated experience. Travel and transportation. Okay, so this is it's interesting. If you do a survey of the App Store, there's a bunch of airline applications out there, but almost all of the airline apps are focused on very specific scenarios. Book me a flight, sort of check me into my flight, allow me to board a plane because using my sort of QR code-based boarding pass. Right? But nobody out there seems to be thinking about the entire experience. Right? What's the traffic like from here to the airport? Right? Is there any construction happening along the way to the airport? Right? At the airport, where's my gate? Right? How about if I go grab a cup of coffee? It would be great to get notified on my mobile device when my plane's getting ready to board. Who's picking me up from the other side? When are they picking me up? And if my flight's delayed, can I notify them that I'm going to be late? So nobody out there is thinking about the entire experience. And we think when it comes to effective mobile strategies or designing your mobile initiatives, I think it's very important to consider that entire user journey. So to that end, some of the innovations that we're seeing in the travel space, I think when you think about travel, when you think about transportation, it's easy to sort of think of it in terms of you've got the consumer, and the consumer is purchasing their ticket, or the consumer is using mobile to streamline their experience. Yet, mobile is not just about the consumer. You imagine iPads in the cockpit, untethering people from behind the desk to engage with people out on the floor, so customer service, flight, field service, right? So you have techs out there who are managing, organizing planes. How about mobile devices for them to be able to check off or view information about the work that they're doing? Talked earlier about you're at the airport, finding your way within that airport. I think when it comes to indoor location, this is a space which is, I think we would consider to be largely unsolved at this point in time, but there's a lot of work that's being done to get a solution around this. There are some interesting workarounds, but this notion of you have a very large facility and being able to pinpoint your exact location in that facility, and then giving you the appropriate paths, if you will, to get to where you need to go within that location. We're seeing a good bit of this in the retail space. Obviously, any large facility, an airport, for example, would benefit from this sort of technology. You know, when you look at when you take your sort of typical smartphone, your iPhone, your Android device, it is a single user device, right? It's sort of tied to you. It's in your pocket all the time. It's something you use. Now, occasionally, in my case, I'll give it over to my kids, and they'll use it. But there's a lot of scenarios out there which are actually multi-user, which are driven by a single individual. Right? So in the travel space, imagine a scenario where you're checking in on the behalf of your entire family. Right? So when designing and developing mobile applications, you have to think about it in terms of who the audience is, how they're going to use the application. Is this an app for the business traveler? Is this an app for the family traveler? Right? In the healthcare space, is this an app to manage your condition? Or is this an app to manage your entire family's condition? Right? So thinking through sort of the multi-user scenarios and how those would be driven by a single user is also something which is oftentimes overlooked, but important when it comes to providing the most value to users out there. When you think about payments, collecting funds from a mobile device, right? We talked about point of sale in the retail space. And point of sale in the airline industry, this notion of a flight attendant on their way to the gate getting a notification saying, here's the flight manifest. Right? So you have a list of all the people on your plane. You board the plane, the flight attendant boards the plane, and now it's a different sort of conversation. right? As he sort of goes from seat to seat, he can sort of refer to those individuals by name, right? He can sort of even view maybe their previous travel, when they've traveled using the airline. Maybe he may have some, just the types of conversations in terms of the customer service is much richer now because of a lot of the information that the flight attendant has at their disposal. Again, just like the retail environment, you have this sort of mobile device fitted in a sled, which allows you to take credit card payments. But it doesn't end there. Right? It's very easy to visualize a scenario where you have a credit card on file, and you actually don't even need to use a credit card, a physical credit card. The flight attendant can basically charge funds against the credit card that you have on file. But point of sale, sort of collecting payments, receiving payments, there's a big drive right now in the mobile space around those sort of use cases. Okay. So we talked about sort of different airlines, so they're all focused on very specific use cases. This is an airline which has been thinking differently about the travel experience. The Alaska Airlines app is much more about sort of end-to-end your entire travel journey, right? And it includes things like I've got a leg on Alaska Airlines, a leg on Northwest Airlines, a leg on Delta. This notion of sort of multiple different flights, it's all packaged into this single application, right? So the concept here is sort of the flight jacket, the sort of physical paper envelope that you get when you have multiple legs, where you have multiple boarding passes. This is a digital representation of that concept. It includes things like taking a photo of your parking spot. I can't even remember how many times I've misplaced my vehicle prior to having this sort of technology, but simple sort of conveniences there that help you along that entire journey. Right? So when you think about sort of the journey that your residents for the state of California take, think about the entire journey and how mobile can improve or augment that journey, as opposed to just focusing on sort of key specific use cases. Okay, the last industry I had on here is media consumption. If you think about how people are consuming content, right? Whether it's educational content, whether it's sort of entertainment-related entertainment-related content, there's the sort of basic use cases that you see where now you can sort of view TV or view shows from your mobile device. But where it gets interesting is when you have a mobile solution or mobile experience that augments or extends a traditional experience. Right? So watching TV on a large screen, that's typically sort of linear sort of experience. Right? A mobile device that can engage with that experience, extend that experience, whether it's social, where you're able to discuss that content with your friends or your sort of larger social circle, whether it's being able to view additional sort of mobile-specific add-ons to that content, right? Those are all, there's a lot of work being done right now around extending that experience to mobile. The Showtime iPad mobile application is, you have media broadcast companies out there looking at phones, tablets. They're looking at all of these devices. And they're viewing these as another channel, right? So I can watch Showtime on my TV. I can sort of TiVo it, and now I should be able to access that content regardless of what device I use, anytime, anywhere. So the point there is this expectation around sort of content being available at any time, anywhere, and being relevant, right? That is what we think the next sort of wave in the media space is about, the distribution of that content, sort of personalizing that content, making it be relevant, and having it be accessible from different form factors. So let me close with some of the key trends that we're expecting here in the next few years. some of these are already happening. So you have initial smartphone device, 2007. It was all about touch and multi-touch, right? Fast forward a couple of years, voice, being able to control your device from using your voice. Siri comes into play. There's some apps out there which are starting to use Siri. So find me a nearby doctor. I'm interested in this particular product at Target, right? Those sort of, we'll start to see more of those sort of use cases. And then you have things like Google Glasses, the Microsoft Kinect, which are a whole different class of interaction models, right? So we're expecting that there's been new interaction models that are coming up, and there'll be newer interaction models that continue to emerge. We see, we talked about this earlier, so the very definition of mobile, I think everything before too long is going to be a connected device. Right? So it's one thing to be a connected device, but it's another thing altogether to be a connected device and be an intelligent device. Right? The Nest thermostat is a device which learns over time. It learns whether you're in the house or not. It learns how much energy you're using. And it shows you very clearly how much you've saved by being more efficient in your energy uses, right? So think about your refrigerator knowing what's inside it, or showing you recipes based on that information. Every single device before too long is going to be a connected device. So that's another emerging trend. And the third one is context, right? So I talked about the sort of journey that users go on, right? The phone is a 3.5-inch screen, right? How do you bring this entire journey to a 3.5-inch screen? And the answer there is context, right? Remember, the device knows what time it is. It knows where you are. With an app, it knows who you are. So the combination of those three factors together all of a sudden enables us to give users an experience specific to where they are in a particular journey. Right? So mapping that back to the travel experience or the transportation experience, if I'm on the road on the way to the airport, right, the app should probably show me traffic conditions. Right? If I'm at the actual airport and I haven't checked in, the experience should be more focused on, looks like you want to check in. Right? If you're checked in, the experience should change to be, let us help you find your gate inside this particular airport. On the plane, the experience should change to be more focused on, let us give you some things to entertain you. Right? How about some videos? How about some interesting games? When you land, it's all about locating who's there to pick you up. Right? So again, who you are, sort of what time it is, where you are. The combination of those enables us to build context-specific experiences. And the context, those three axes, if you will, are going to get more sophisticated over time. Right? So we talk about the Nike Fuel Band, the Fitbit. You can add on a health and wellness dimension. So right now you know sort of not only sort of in your sort of healthcare experience, you can sort of tune that further based on a lot of the information or learning that's coming from these additional devices. So these are the three trends, some of which we're seeing already, and we anticipate that these trends will continue as we look to the future. So great. With that, well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.